Hello, everyone. This is Afua. Welcome to the webinar. We're going to get started very shortly, but we just want to wait for a couple of more people to join. Please do feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us who you are and where you're coming from, and we will be starting very soon. Hello. Welcome to our new joiners. We're excited to have you here with us today. We're going to start the webinar very soon, but in the meantime, please do introduce yourself in the chat. If you look to the right-hand side, there's a little button that says chat, and you can introduce yourself and tell us where you're coming from. So look on the right-hand side, there's a little messaging function, and please do tell us where you're coming from. Thank you. Okay, hello, everyone. This is Afua here. Yasmin, what's up? Can you hear me all right? We can't hear you, Yasmin. Are you on mute, please?
No, I said it's crazy what's going on here. We are divided by an ocean, yet together as ever.
Yes, okay, that might need to be the new slogan that we put on a shirt somewhere. Thank you to everyone for joining us. Hello, Jen from Canada. We have Kosi from Lagos, Elfrida from Lagos, Sigle from Eswatini. Hello, Yuji from Lagos, like next door Lagos. Kome is from Kuala Lumpur. Hello, I wonder what time it is there. Well, thank you for staying up and connecting with us. Marilyn, it's great to see you. Hilda and Kofo, it's great to have you here. Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Afua.
And my name is Yasmin.
We're the SLA co-founders, and we're so excited to have this really important conversation with you about keeping your business afloat during this time. Yasmin, how are you holding up personally, just with all the news that's coming out, and as you think about yourself, your family, the business, like what's happening in your head?
No, I mean, of course, I think the first thing is that it's just so crazy. Every day I wake up and I'm like, surely it must be a dream that the whole world is going into lockdown. But it is. I mean, I think for all of us who have sort of slightly elderly relatives or relatives who have underlying health conditions, this is something that we're really concerned about. I think obviously, I mean, I'm in London at the moment, but being someone from the continent, just very nervous and concerned about how we're going to actually be able to manage that, because, you know, we know that we're not as developed as a lot of places. So I think those sorts of concerns and worries are very real. And like quarantine, this is crazy. Like, wow.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, definitely.
How about you?
So, me, it's wild. It's definitely wild. I would love to hear how everyone else, before I share mine, I would love to hear how everyone is feeling, just on a mental state. If you want to share an emoji, if you just want to give us one word, like how are you feeling right now, personally, professionally, entrepreneurially, just with everything that's going on. I think for me, the first instinct was just thinking about my parents. Definitely, they're also a bit older, to just make sure that they can stay whole. I think also thinking about work and think about my family members, maybe who have to go to work outside or who actually have to interact with people. You know, that's also just being so fearful. I don't like the mindset and how we're just so fearful about being around people and just being scared about who might touch you, who might cough on you, who might hug you, and just being scared to connect with people. That's definitely taking a toll on the mindset. And I think also, of course, as an entrepreneur, having responsibilities for other people, that's also something that's just, it weighs. It definitely weighs on you to say, how can we do right by our people, but then also how can we take care of ourselves as well? But I know this is definitely something that we've tried to do, is of course, we've always been like paying people on time, paying people early, making sure that we can be supported. But of course, not every single business has the luxury of being able to do that. So also just having that burden of taking care of the people that are underneath our stewardship as well. So that's what we're here to talk about today, is just about how to keep your business afloat during this time.
Yes, let's jump into it.
Great. So we're going to talk a little bit just about who we are. If you've never heard about SLA, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're so excited to have you here. We're also going to talk about the business considerations. So Yasmin's going to cover that side around, as a entrepreneur, as a business owner, what are some of the things that you should think about? And then I'm going to talk about from the people side, just as a team member, as a freelancer, as an independent person, how can you think about being an effective worker and being your most productive? So Yasmin, who are we?
People trying to live a good life.
Amen.
My name is Yasmin. I'm Nigerian Ghanaian. I'm one of the co-founders of She Leads Africa. So a bit of context into my background. I graduated from Princeton, started off with a major in history. I then went into consulting and spent quite a few years at McKinsey & Company, working in their Lagos office and working with companies across the continent that were really hoping to grow or scale, or to really figure and sort out any problems that I may have. I think like most Africans, went back to school. I got a JD MBA, so that's a law degree and a business degree from Harvard Law School and Stanford Business School. I graduated last year, so thank God I actually was able to get a graduation. Like a lot of people who might be, if we're any students watching, you might be missing your graduation. And then I've also just been running She Leads Africa for the last 5 years with Afua.
Hello, hello, everyone. My name is Afua. I'm Ghanaian, and thank you so much for joining us. Met Yasmin when we were business consultants in Lagos, and I've been living in Lagos ever since, working on She Leads Africa. I worked in politics, I worked in communications, and I'm really grateful every day to be able to do this kind of creative work that we do. And of course, thankful for you all for joining us. So for everyone who's here, the desire of this conversation is just for us to be open and honest about how we have thought about preparing our business and some of the things that we did before this crisis. You know, any entrepreneur, you never know when you might have a crisis come up. So the conversation is to be open. Please do share your questions in the chat. We also have some polls that are coming up. So this is the dialogue, this is the conversation, and we want to be as helpful as possible. And of course, if you're not sure about She Leads Africa, you've never heard about us, definitely feel free to give us a check out at sheleadsafrica.org and at She Leads Africa on all social media channels. So the first poll is, can you let us know just who you are? We love to know who's in the room, who's in the conversation. So if you go to the poll function, we just want to know, are you a student, a professional, an entrepreneur, a student with a side hustle, professional with a side hustle, or are you looking to start a side hustle? Because answering those questions will really help us determine the best way that we can make sure that this is practical and useful for you. So please check out that poll and let us know. Okay, so we have a couple of professionals with a side hustle. I hope all these people do not work for She Leads Africa, but I kind of feel like they might be our own team members who are professionals with side hustles, entrepreneurs, professionals, fantastic. So please feel free to start that poll. And Yasmin, let's go to business considerations.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to be focusing on speaking to people who are business owners and things that you should think about when it comes to COVID-19. I prefer Corona. People say different things. I'm just going to go with Corona. Okay, so the first thing that you need to think about when you think about Corona is naturally, you need to just begin by acknowledging that this actually is a crisis. What I find that a lot of people do is they kind of take things day by day. They're just kind of trying to muddle it through and figure it out. Whereas what you want to do now that you know what's going on is actually say, okay, I'm going to take a step back and really think deeply and thoroughly about my business and how I adjust to this. You have to assume that you have to assume the worst. You're a business owner. So the assumptions that I would encourage you to think about when you go through this exercise is, assume that coronavirus is going to come. It's going to hit Africa or wherever you are in a really big way. Assume there'll be some type of quarantine. It might be 2 weeks, it might be 4 weeks, but you have to plan for assuming that there is going to be some type of quarantine. So the first thing is you just have to get yourself in the right mindset. Okay. Other than that, I'm going to be talking about 4 things tactically that you need to focus on. So the first thing that you need to focus on is managing liquidity. The second thing that you'll need to focus on is for businesses who are able to continue to operate, but have to operate in a slightly modified version, you need to think about how you adjust to keep going. There are some businesses who will find that their business is pretty minimally interrupted by coronavirus. Yes, they have to work remotely versus at the office, but it's not as if they're someone who is, for example, running a nail shop. So there I'll really be speaking to business owners who are doing that and how you think about adjusting from a culture where you're in the office every day to now moving to managing remote workers. And then the next thing is, of course, there are going to be some businesses that are going to have to shut down. They actually just cannot continue to operate during this time. And for those businesses, I'm going to really be talking to you about how are you actually able to take advantage of the shutdown. So we'll go first on to managing liquidity. So one of the things that I've tried to do as I structured this is that instead of giving you a lot of data and statistics, is I've tried to just give you little quotes that I think you should remember for each of the topics. So the first one around managing liquidity is this. A lot of businesses will fail because of lack of capital. Capital preservation is something to consider, but not at the expense of strangling your business to the point that it cannot take advantage of the recovery. Now, here's what you need to realize. If there's any type of quarantine, which we must assume that there will be, there might be a slowdown in business activity. So a lot of your revenue generating activities, things that you'd planned for the year, might not turn out so well. In these sorts of situations, the first thing that you as a business owner need to be thinking about in these crisis situations is how am I able to manage my liquidity? And by what I mean is that how are you actually able to have enough cash for your business to survive? A lot of businesses will really struggle through this period because if your business has to close down for a month, for 2 months, for 3 months, they actually just cannot operate. So the first thing that everyone needs to do is actually go and look at your expenses over the last 2 to 3 months and look at expenses over the next kind of 2 to 3 months. Really think about what is my essential spending and what is my non-essential spending. Actually really break it down. Connected to that, you will want to consider what are your fixed costs versus your variable costs. So, fixed costs, variable costs are things that you can actually just cut down on fairly easily. fixed costs can be slightly more challenging. Usually for most businesses, the biggest percentage of their fixed costs, or, similar to that, you could also say your overheads will be staff costs. So another thing that you need to actually be thinking about if you're in that situation is actually thinking about, okay, if I look at all my, my overheads, if it is indeed staff costs, are there some staff who are essential to running the business, and are there some staff who are not? I'm not saying at this early stage you need to be letting anyone go. Yes, certainly, if there are frivolous expenses that you have, you should definitely be cutting them down. But what you want to do is just make sure that you're thinking about this early on during the crisis, because you really don't know how long this is going to go through. And you really need to be thinking about, if I need to manage and conserve cash quickly, how am I able to do that? So sit down and really do some thinking about that. A slightly connected point to this is that as you think about what is essential spend versus non-essential spend, you also have to consider that sometimes you can cut costs so low that even after the crisis is over, you're actually not able to recover because you hamstrung your business. So I would really consider thinking about, okay, how do I minimize costs? But how do I put my business in a way where we're still continuing to tick along during this time, so that once the crisis is over, and I really want to shoot into recovery mode, once the economy is growing again, when people are moving around again, that you're actually able to take advantage of that. So that's on managing liquidity. We'll go on to the next point, which is saying that for some businesses, what you're going to try to do is adjust to keep going. If you run a restaurant, you cannot suddenly move everyone to remote staff. But what you might be able to do is say, if I didn't have delivery before, how do I actually push hard on that during this time of coronavirus? And that closely links to the quote that I picked for this section, which is, when it is black enough, you can see the stars. And so what I'm saying is that during these dark times, first think about, are there other ways that I can continue to generate revenue if I presuppose that everyone's going to be staying at home? That might be e-commerce, that might be delivery, that might be doing paid online courses, that might be doing digital services. Every business will be different. And I think that if anyone has any specific questions about their business, you can definitely pop it in the chat. And I can respond to those individually when we get to the Q&A section. But the first thing is really look at your business and think about, okay, where can I adjust? Can I push harder on certain things? Can I not push harder on certain things? Okay, that's one. Then I'll go to the next group of people. There are some businesses where you actually won't need just a whole bunch. You won't be like a restaurant, or you won't be like someone who owned a retail store. These might be law firms, these might be accounting firms, these might be consulting firms, these might be design agencies. These are people who even if they're not necessarily making something physical, so they can actually move their staff to remote working fairly quickly. Now, if you're in this type of group, there are two things that you need to think about when you're managing remote workers. It's all about tools and processes. I'm going to say this again, and this is really not actually just about remote work. I think this is a big thing about just business and life. Always thinking about how do I use the right tools and how do I use the right processes. When you're managing remote workers, if you're thinking about the tools that you need to use, there are really sort of three categories of tools that you require. The first is that you need some type of communications platforms to actually communicate amongst your workers. A lot of businesses use email. I actually think that email is pretty a suboptimal product if you're really thinking about internal communications. There are things like Slack, there are things like Microsoft Teams. I personally really, really like Slack. I would encourage people, if you haven't tried it out before, try it out with your company during this period. The second important group for communication is that you really need some sort of cloud or file sharing tool. Everyone's going to be in their different homes if your workers are working remotely, and so you need to make sure that files can be shared easily. Yes, sometimes you can email things back and forth, but I really, really recommend that for everyone, if you haven't already, make sure you have some sort of cloud storage system. We use Google Drive. I know that there are some people who use Box, who use Dropbox. Microsoft also has their own product. I personally really like Google Drive. It integrates into the email that we use, which is Gmail. I also find that with Google Drive, it's much easier for people to actually edit when people are like remotely. They have all their different Google Drive products. So they have an equivalent of Word, they have equivalent of Excel, they have equivalent of like Microsoft like PowerPoint. And so I'd really encourage everyone to find one of those. And you'll need to make sure that you start uploading all your documents and organize them in a way that makes sense. Now, the third group of tools that you'll need to use, other than a communications tool and a cloud share tool, is a voice tool. So to actually be able to speak to people, especially if you want to be doing conference calls or group calls to sort of simulate meetings. There again, I think there are two strong recommendations, though I guess there's also Skype. So there is Skype, there is Google Hangouts, and there is also Zoom. I personally use Google Hangouts, but I think Zoom is also very good. You should play around because sometimes some of them work slightly better with some types of bandwidth. So what works really well in Nigeria might not be the best one in South Africa. So I encourage you to try some of them out and just make sure that you're ready to do that with your teams. An important thing to think about when you're moving now to like voice calls is you have to take a call whether you do video on or whether you do video off. It is true that when you're managing remote workers and you want to make sure that they're paying attention, because that is part of your job as the entrepreneur, to kind of make sure everyone's on top of it, video on is better. I personally just think it's really awkward. I don't want to have my video on, and so I don't feel like I should subject other people to having their video on. But that's something that I think that you should also explore and test around different things to make sure that people are actually really hearing what you're saying. Okay, great. Now once we're done with the tool sides, I'm going to go on to talking about the types of processes that you need to put in place to manage remote workers. Now, the biggest worry once you have people going remotely is you're worried that people are going to be taking the piss. They're not going to be doing a lot of work. They're going to be spending a lot of time kind of chilling, watching YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. Every boss was an employee before, so like we know the game. The second thing is that you're going to be worried that you might not have as good alignment because you don't, or you might start developing silos because people don't have as much of that in the office communication. Now, I'll talk about kind of the processes that I use for both. So one, for productivity, and we actually use this as SLA, at SLA because we started off as a remote company, is we do something called daily check-ins to really drive accountability and force people to really hold themselves to what they're doing every day. And the way check-in works is you send a Slack message. If you use email, it can also be via email, but I told you email is dead, so please have moved away from that. But everyone just sends an account of what they're going to do. You just send this. So today I'm going to do A, B, C, D, and E. I'll include a caption or a screenshot of a check-in in the notes later on so that you can also see what they look like. But the idea that everyone checks in every day, says what they're going to do, and at the end of the day, you actually tick off or you show exactly what you've done. Now, the good thing about that as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, is that you're able to somewhat keep track of what people are doing, which is going to make you feel comfortable that progress is still being made. It will also really help with alignment because everyone will know and get a little bit of a sense of what everybody else is working on. So if there are any sort of glitches, any isolations, any things going on, you find that there's much smoother communication between people because you actually have a sense of what people are doing. Because if you think about it, if you're in the natural office environment, you'd have gone up to a colleague, oh, hey, what are you working on? You'd have had some of those sort of natural, just having a sense of what people are doing. And so you want to be able to like imitate that effect digitally to make sure that you still remain very coordinated when you're moving through. The other thing about check-ins is that they do drive accountability because, in the morning, once someone has said what they're going to do, they do feel somewhat constrained to actually get it done. I have sold check-ins to so many people and people have integrated them in their business and they've actually found that it's really, really helped them just get clarity, more productivity, et cetera, et cetera. And especially when you're working really, this is something that you will want to consider. Now, the final thing, or the final group of people that I'm going to want to talk about there are some people who you're not going to be able to adjust your business, not like a restaurant or, like a store that's now doing e-commerce. You're not going to be able to move remotely. You are actually going to have to just close down your business for the period when coronavirus is going through. So think about if you are a massage parlor, or you do lashes, or you do constructions. Like, there are some things where you might actually have to completely close down your operations. And for those sorts of people, or people in that category, what I'd say is that you really need to make sure that you take advantage of the shutdown to prepare yourself well for recovery. Now, I presuppose that you would have thought about how you manage your liquidity, which is what we spoke about initially. But what I would say is that whenever you have a slow period in business, there are a couple of things that you can think about doing to make sure that when you come back, you're prepped. So the first thing that I think is really obvious is anything to do with like training staff. This is stuff that oftentimes when we're so busy in the day-to-day of running our businesses, we might not have enough time to train staff in the way that we want. It's one of the things that I would say is your business actually has to shut down. Then think about, for example, hosting webinars with your staff members, whether it's about, it will depend on what your industry is. You can either teach them yourself, or you can get outside people to come in and teach them for your staff members. And of course, it can all be done digitally. But at least that's a way that you're continuing to keep active. You're preparing yourself for the recovery. You're keeping your staff members engaged, and you're taking advantage of that time. The second thing that I think is always really smart to think about is going back to your business and thinking about whether there are areas where you can design better processes. I believe that great businesses are built on people who have excellent processes. And whether that means that you are a makeup salon and you have a process where every time a customer comes in, the receptionist does this, and then she 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 does this. A lot of businesses will have I kind of know how I do it, but they'll never have actually sat down and written these things down in sort of like a flow diagram or even like a checklist diagram. I think that this is a time where you can actually go back if your business is shut down during this period and think about, are there things that I can turn into checklists or processes that we can then make sure that we're doing things consistently in a business every single time. Because I'm sure one of the challenges that people find with a lot of businesses on the continent is that like things can be inconsistent, service can be inconsistent. So to the extent that you can spend this time kind of codifying the way you want things done in your business and training your staff on them, it's a really, really excellent use of your time. And then the final thing that I would say, and this is actually relevant to all businesses, whether you're shutting down, whether you're keeping going but working remotely, or whether you're just adjusting, is in times of crises, you always need to make sure that you are communicating with your consumers. Now, I know for a lot of people that might just be an email about what we're doing. Those are fine, but hey, a lot of businesses have done that. So think about, is there something that you're unique that your business can be doing for your customers during this period, so they always feel tied to you, they remember your brand during this period, you're not necessarily forgotten, and you can keep going. The ways that you can do that are very varied. It can be on social media. If you're a restaurant, for example, and you're pivoting to delivery on social media, what I should be seeing is pictures of people in your kitchen, super hygienic, everyone, doing what is COVID essential, so that I, as a customer, know that my food is going to be clean. If you are someone who is making clothes and doing e-commerce, you want to be messaging to your consumers that, hey, it is still safe to buy our products. And that you can do. It's email, it's social media. It's just really making sure that people understand what's going on with your business at this time and how you are also keeping your consumers safe. Okay, so that basically takes me to the end of sort of my big lessons for what are some of the considerations that business owners should be thinking about. So I think the first thing that I said is that, you of course need to remember that this is a crisis and really take time to plan and figure out how you adjust. The next thing is that you want to make sure that you're very, very conscious of how you manage your liquidity. I then explained for the 3 different types of businesses that are just moving remotely, businesses that will continue to operate in a modified format, businesses who are being able to shut down or who have to shut down. I spoke to you a little bit about the different strategies depending on where you sit. And then the final point that I'd made was just making sure that you communicate with your customers and your users so they understand that you are continuing to operate and that irrespective of what goods or services they get from you, they will be safe and they will be healthy. So that brings me to the end of my section. If there are any questions, you can throw them in the chat now. But I know we'll also be doing another Q&A section towards the end of the webinar. And so I'll take a brief pause and I will actually have Afua dial back in and we will move on to her section, which is really focused on being an effective remote worker. Afua, I hope you really learned from my gems of knowledge that I just...
I did. I even tagged you on social and I even zoomed in. I was like, boom, the knowledge. And then I pulled it out so that people could see that those degrees were not a waste.
It wasn't a waste. Every dollar mattered. And so if I'm really excited to listening to you, to thinking about how we can be productive, because this is something that I personally really, really struggle with. So I will be a student as well.
Good. Well, thank you so much, Yasmin. And thank you to all of our newcomers. If you just joined us, we're talking about keeping your business going through crisis. So hello, Bemi. Hello, Omotayo. Hello, Folakemi. Kosi, I'm so happy that you were able to connect with Fatu. This is exactly what we're all about, making connections. And thank you. If you've left a question, we'll definitely get to it as we go through the sessions. I'm talking about how do you do it and how do you manage it from the other side. So in case you're not a business owner, if you're not an entrepreneur, what should you be thinking about during this slowdown? Some of these tips are relevant for remote work, but it's also important for you to think about when you're in a space where times are tough, entrepreneurs are struggling, money isn't flowing, how can you be at your best? So that's what I'm gonna talk about. Is first, we're gonna go back to the poll. We're gonna go back to the poll on the right side. Look for the poll, there should be a red dot there. And I wanna know, is your company open to remote work? Yes, you can definitely work from home. Maybe, it depends on the situation, or never. Is the work that you do, maybe you have to go out there and sell, you have to go out there, talk to your customers. Maybe it's even essential work as a nurse, as a grocery store clerk. Let us know, are you actually working from home these days, or how are you thinking about your work? As you fill in that poll, I'm gonna jump right into the next section. First of all, during this time, every single team member, what I want you to do right now is to go and have a conversation with your manager. You need to get alignment with your boss on what success looks like. Priorities have changed. Mindsets have shifted. You need to understand the new business reality and the role that you can play. It's not business as usual anymore. And so having that proactive conversation where you go and talk to your manager, if they haven't done it yet, right? If they haven't brought everyone together, you have to raise your hand and say, hey, I want to just talk to you about what's happening right now with the business and what's our new team direction and how would you like me to perform? It's really important for you to understand what they're thinking, because when you understand where their mindset is at, then you can be best prepared. I know nobody on this chat has been doing this, but sometimes some people like to slack, right? We're not working our hardest, we're not doing our best, and we're not being that productive because we think that our jobs are secure. My friends, nobody's job is secure. Even me, that I'm sitting here in this chair, that I work for my own company. If we don't bring money in, my own job may not be secure. So it's really the time for you to say, hey, how can I be my best in this space? And having that proactive conversation can really help you understand where they're coming from. Step number 2 is over communicate. If you're sitting in an office or you're able to talk to your manager and your team member every single day, sometimes you take things for granted. But in this world where things are hectic, things are crazy, and you might not be sitting face to face with someone, You need to over communicate and make sure that there is visibility. Visibility means that people can see what you're doing. It also means that you can see what other people are doing. And it also means that you remove opportunities and space for disagreement, right? Visibility is an issue many times with women when it comes to leadership because we keep our work quiet and we keep our work to ourselves and we don't want to be boastful about what we've done and what we've been able to accomplish. In today's market, we can't do that anymore. We need to communicate about, this is what I'm doing. Does it align with our goals? Do we need to switch? Do we need to move? If there's an issue, making sure you raise your hand and say, hey, I'm not clear about this. I don't understand this. I need assistance. You have to really work on your communication skills if you're working from home or you're doing most of your communication via text message or laptop or email. If you've had an issue with communicating with your colleagues or with your boss before, let me know in the chat if you need some tips in terms of how to phrase those conversations or how to do that if you're nervous. The next piece of advice I'm going to give is something that is so important. It's really critical as you move up, especially in leadership, is that you have to learn how to manage yourself. We all have our own personal work style. I can work very, 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 very late. I can send emails 12 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Some people don't want to get that kind of noise in their inbox, right? They don't want anybody sending them emails. So you have to know, how do you work best? Are you a morning person? Are you an evening time person? Do you like to take some time to think through your thoughts and then share them? Or do you want to brainstorm with the group and talk about what's happening with everyone? You really need to understand your personal work style because people can't see you. They can't see if you're working hard. They can't see if you're delivering work. So you have to be able to manage yourself and know that you're still getting your work done. Okay, Kome and Joy, I got you some tips on communication. It's definitely going to come up during the Q&A. Now, this work from home thing can be very, very, very hectic because you're sitting at your laptop, you're staring at your screen, the work, the time just keeps going, it just keeps going, it keeps going. Do not feel forced to work 8 hours. 8 hours, it's, it's a historical thing. I don't know, it could maybe even be a colonial thing. I don't know where it came from. I don't know if our ancestors were working 8 hours. But sometimes you find that when you're in the office, you waste time. You waste time talking, you waste time walking around, you waste time blah, blah, blah. So connecting to learning how to manage yourself, definitely figure out how can you be the most efficient with the time that you have. Set clear boundaries. There's a method called the Pomodoro method, and where you work for 25 minutes, take a break, 25 minutes, take a break. Some people choose to do 1 hour break, 1 hour break, whatever method works for you. But make sure that you're focused on efficiency and getting your work done and not just the number of hours that you're logged in or you're on your phone or in front of a screen. Okay, so I ran through those tips very quickly. I just want to see, are there any questions around remote work, especially if this is your first time? I know one of the questions was about motivation and how do you keep focused. It's definitely about being structured. It's definitely about, we're going to get into all of these things, definitely about being mindful of your time. And it's definitely being aware of, this is what I need to accomplish, this is what's important for the business, and this is how I'm going to deliver and stand out during this time. Just because it's a crisis doesn't mean it's not an opportunity for you to shine and get things done. Now, if you want to quote me, you can also tag me on Instagram at Hello Afua. Okay, I don't even mind. You can quote me on that one. Okay, thank you. Natalie, you agree our work should be tied to targets, not hours? Absolutely. We want to show that we're delivering value. If people are thinking about cuts, our names are not going to be at the top of the list because we're focused on the value that we're going to bring to our company, to our team members, and to our overall organizations. So the next piece I'm going to talk about is around doing your work productively, which can be very challenging. There's so much news. There's so much activity happening. And my first tip is give yourself grace. This is an unprecedented time in all of our lives. It's stressful. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot to worry about. So give yourself some grace and make sure that you're taking that mental health space to do what you need to do. After that, I want you to start your week with goals that you want to achieve and track your progress. If you had that conversation with your manager around these are the major priorities for the company, this is what we need to do to be able to get through the next 1 month or 2 months, then you should already know this is what you need to be working on a weekly basis. Don't write your goals down and leave it somewhere in the corner. It should be something that you're looking at and tracking towards on a daily basis. Secondly, review your important meetings or calls in the morning so you set aside time to prepare. We're all in our pajamas, or maybe we're relaxed, we're not wearing fancy clothes, but that doesn't mean we should come to things being disheveled. Doesn't mean we should be coming on the calls and conversations disorganized. Set some time apart to say, hey, this is what's expected of me, and this is how I'm going to be prepared and thorough before I get on those conversations. Thirdly is create a productive workspace. The bed is not sustainable. Even if it's a small little corner, a small little kitchen table, or on the couch, create the space that's quiet. And I see your question, Fatu, about being productive with children at home because many schools are closed. Let's definitely talk about that in the chat and during the Q&A. And if anyone else out there has ideas or things that you've seen or you've learned about being productive with children, please do share that in the chat so that we can all learn and we can all share. So let's create a productive workspace. Let's get up. Let's get started with our day. Fourth is manage your devices. I live in a place that does not have consistent 24-hour power. And so I have to be mindful about making sure my devices are charged and that I can still be available to work during that 9 to 5 time period. Some apps, they have to go. Some apps we have to turn off and we need to monitor that. You can go to your settings and look at batteries to see the apps or the functions that are using up the most of your batteries so that you can still get your work done during the day. I know this is an issue in South Africa. I know this is an issue in Ghana. I know this can be an issue in Nigeria. So if you live in a country where power is an issue, we got to set up a plan ahead of time. Fifth is set reminders in your phone to keep you on track. Set reminders for those breaks. Set reminders for those deliverables that you said because you want to make sure that you are delivering when you say you're going to do something. So use technology to also keep you on time in case you don't have anybody else in your ear reminding you about something that you need to deliver. Also, those tools that Yasmin shared, such as Slack, other tools like Asana and Trello can also be helpful to help you check off your to-do list and remember the tasks that you want to work on. Definitely, Natalie shared investing in power backups like power banks and portable batteries. Absolutely, if you live in a place that doesn't have consistent power. You want to take breaks, stretch, relax your eyes, take a break from the screen. Just because you're working from home doesn't mean you need to be glued to your desk or to your screen all the time. Lastly, you want to set your own rewards to keep you motivated and encouraged while working on major projects. For me, that's an episode of Netflix. If I want to watch one episode of Netflix, I know there are some things that I need to get accomplished. But we can't always rely on external validation or external points to keep us motivated. We have to be able to manage ourselves. Woo! Okay, we ran through a lot. I hope it was useful for you all. I hope it was helpful. And I want to just talk next about how SLA can be useful to you during your journey and as you're transitioning and thinking about this really challenging time in your business or in your career. Please do continue to share your questions in the chat. I think they're great. They're really helpful, and we want to definitely have that conversation. So, poll, have you heard about SLA? Yes or no? Let us know. Maybe someone just forwarded this to you or you saw it on Instagram. But in case you haven't heard about She Leads Africa, we're a platform that cares about women like you. We want you to find success in your businesses and careers, and we do that through community, information, and inspiration to help you live the life of your dreams. We do a lot of stuff. Right? We have our community. So there are more than 700,000 women who are connected to SLA. Our content, every single day, you can get connected to us via our articles, newsletters, podcasts, videos, social media, our events. We have events all across well, we used to have events all across the continent, but most recently Lagos, Johannesburg, and we hope that after COVID-19, we can reach a couple more cities. But those are opportunities to connect in person and build your community. Our book club is really active, reading and discussing books on a monthly basis from African women authors. Media, we're always sharing opportunities and information to our community. And lastly, our insider program, which is our 8-week online class. Thank you so much, Natalie, for your support. Thank you so much, Joy, for being a part of our community for the past 3 years. We love to see it. Okay, Motherland Mobile Insider. I'm gonna take it, but I'm also gonna throw some questions to Yasmin about what our community is about. But if you are looking for more access, you're looking for more access to experts, more access to information, and more access to community, our Motherland Mobile Insider is the program for you. The streets are saying it's hot, okay? The streets are saying the sisterhood is there. People are getting jobs, they're getting opportunities, they're learning, they're connecting, and it's due to the Motherland Mobile Insider. So, and we just because of the craziness and the time that we're in right now, we've actually added more content and more exclusive knowledge to our Motherland Mobile Insider program. We have one about remote working hacks for professionals. So if you are first time working from home or you want to improve your productivity and how you're performing, you'll love to access that class. And then of course, managing your business remotely, offline to online, that's for the CEOs, the entrepreneurs, giving you those tangible tips so that your business doesn't fail during this time. Okay, so Yasmin, can you break it down? What's our MMI Pro and what's our MMI Classic? Two different experiences, but still great all around.
Sure, everything is great all around, and thank you so much for giving us that background, Afua, boom. So I think the Motherland Mogul Classic, so this is about 1,500 Naira, it's about 65 Rand, and then 420 Kenyan shillings. This one is focused for people who want some community, so we have a lot of community building activities, we have discussion groups going on online, so it's someone who wants some community. They also get access to all our courses. So it's someone who wants to be able to get the information, the knowledge. It's self-paced, so you can move through it at your own pace. And you are also looking to kind of meet a group of women, have some interesting discussions, debates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's for people who, you know, the MMI Classic is a good fit for. For people who do the MMI Pro, now that's about $4,500. Well, I mean, you can read all the prices there. I don't need to say.
Naira, girl, Naira.
Naira, oh my God, woo, no. Naira, I hope never. But I think that this one is really for people who want something a bit more hands-on. Because what we do here is we match you with accountability partners, and you're actually having someone who you're going through the journey with, and you also get a few more worksheets. So you're someone who you want stuff to be a bit more practical. You actually want to be able to be, you know, doing different like quizzes, worksheets, like working through things, and you're also looking for a one-on-one partner. I think both are really good like options, and it's just a better, a better sense of kind of what is it that you're looking for? What type of learner are you? What is it that you need? Do you just need like a small group, or do you need like a one-on-one person? Those are all the things that I would think about when considering which group to join.
Perfect. And because you were in this webinar today, you actually get 10% off, and we're going to share a free list of businesses you can start right now at home. So if you've been thinking about what am I going to do during this period, or you have some extra time and you're saying this is the time you're finally going to get something started, we want to help you along that journey by welcoming you into this private community, as well as giving you the resources and the information to get you started. So click the link. There's a link. There's a link. If you click the link in the chat, Fatu is asking the right kind of questions. How can I join MMI? So you can click the link. There is an offer button, and I'm going to ask our moderators to add this to the offer so everyone can click through. But if you go to bit.ly/join MMI, you'll be able to sign up and get instant access to our next cohort, okay? So we'll also share the link in the chat so that you can access it. But remember that this offer is for those who are part of the webinar today. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You get 10% off as well as a free list of 20 businesses. Now, businesses you can start from home. Now, in case this isn't something that you're interested in, we do have some other goodies for you for joining us today. We do have an audience of more than 700,000 women in our community. So if you are interested in advertising your brand to our community, definitely reach out to us so that you can get take advantage of this opportunity. I know our sales team has all kinds of goodies and offers for you, but just so you know, the streets continue to love us. High client satisfaction ratings. Our pricing is transparent. We love to keep it real. We work with all kinds of businesses from fashion to beauty to food, and we can bundle and put together a package for you. So if you want to be on our Instagram page or send an email or get a website feature, we have it for you. And what we've seen is that credibility building is so important for entrepreneurs. Getting featured in one space is what allows you to go take that to go get featured in other places or to expand your reach. And so because you were on this webinar, we're offering 20% off our one-off ads or 50% off a 3-month subscription. So if you want to keep building your brand, keep getting in the face of your potential customers, this is a great opportunity for you. So that offer is available at bit.ly/digital sales2020. And we're going to share that link as well. I'm going to talk to my colleagues at SLA to get it done. bit.ly/digital-sales-2020 to share the link in the chat. Now, we have a lot of questions and we cannot wait to get to them. So some people submitted their questions beforehand. I don't know if we'll be able to get to all of them, but yeah, maybe we pick like 1 or 2 from the sheet and then also choose the other ones from the chat so that we can try and get through as many as we can.
Sure. Do you want to, yeah, that makes sense. So should I pick one? How about I'll pick one from the questions on this page and then I'll go to the chat as well.
Okay, perfect. Right. I will do the same. So I will go for the Davina from Ghana saying, I would like to know how to stay productive as an employee who has never worked from home in my life. So here's the thing, the transition will be different. Absolutely. So if you've never worked from home, a couple of things is that you have to really, really, really learn your personal work style. Do you work best at the beginning of the day or do you work best at the end of the day? Also think about creating a accountability group with your colleagues or with other people who are in the same position as you. That way you all are all holding each other accountable. I know so many people, they wait for their boss to remind them of something or they wait for their manager. You don't have to do that. Get 2 or 3 of your friends to say, hey friends, we're in a really interesting situation. Let's come together to support each other and work on this. If you're in the MMI program, we'll link you up with an accountability partner, but that's also important so that you can make sure that you're getting your work done. I think also you want to think about what things can you do ahead of time by yourself versus what things require feedback from your colleagues. You know, if you're not able to always go and talk to people, but you really want to look at your job and look at your day and say, hey, how can I be as efficient as possible in all of these different tasks? Yasmin, what's yours?
Okay, I'm going to start with Victoria from Kenya. Okay, so she says that, the gist of it is she's at home, not as active, and wants to start off a business right now so that she can pick it up after the period is over. What are some good tips to start up? So I think that there are 2 things that you can be doing right now. So first, there's like the thinking as to, okay, what business do I start? I think the first thing that you should kind of look at as what are the things that you are interested in and what are the things that you have expertise in? Kind of write all those things down. As you develop a list, then start thinking realistically about which ones are you actually going to be able to execute. So for example, I'm really interested in like generating electricity, but it doesn't really make sense that I'm going to be able to buy a power plant right now, like in my life, because I'm in my early 30s. So that doesn't make sense for where I am now. So I kind of take a look at that. Then I think that the next thing that you should do during this period is there is no good thing about coronavirus, but a lot of people are home right now and they're really, really bored. So this means that if you're looking for a time to actually do customer research, so actually going and asking people, hey, well, would you buy this product? Would you get this service? This is a really, really good time to be reaching out to friends, colleagues, people who are going to be home, people who frankly are going to be wanting some type of social interaction. So this is also a really, really good time to get customer research done. And so, in summary, 2 things I focus on is 1, kind of think about, what you're good at, what does the market need, what are you best suited to start up? That's number 1. And then number 2, spend this time doing a bit of customer research into whatever business you think it is that you choose to really understand whether it's a good idea, a bad idea, whether you need to go with something else, et cetera, et cetera. Over to you, Afua. Boom.
Yes, I want to answer this quick one. I'm going to be very quick. So the question is from Laulu from Great Britain. How do I prioritize who to pay in this time? Yasmin definitely covered that before about essential versus non-essential. But the part around any creative ways to market during an epidemic. There are some businesses that are need to haves and there are some businesses that are nice to have. Part of this prioritizing your business is you really want to think about who are you a need to have. And perhaps for some businesses, you're not a need to have for anybody. You are a luxury item. Even if your prices are not expensive, you may be a luxury item to people during this time. So if people have less to spend or it's not as easy to access your products, you may have to just chop it and accept it that my business is not going to grow during this time. Or you want to think about it and say, how can I make sure that my business is a need to have? Or who needs to have this during this time? Before, people used to look at vitamins as a nice to have, right? Vitamins, I'll take my vitamins when I feel like it. Nowadays, with this conversation about, oh, I need to build up my immune system, I need to be healthier, vitamins have probably risen in the level of importance to many people in terms of what they want to spend their money on. And so you really want to think about who may care about what you're offering and how can you make sure it is a need to have instead of a nice to have.
Sure. Actually, I want to actually build up on that question because let's assume that you do find that your business is like a luxury, something that people don't need to have. Do you still think that it's worth it kind of communicating a lot about coronavirus so that even if people don't feel like they need to purchase your products, they feel like you as a brand cares about them? And so then after the crisis, they are somewhat more endeared to your brand. Or do you think that that's actually not a particularly good use of people's time and that you should actually focus more on like product?
So I read an article about this. I think it's very valid, but somebody said they didn't follow you in the first place for health advice and medical like guidance, right? Like, you weren't the CDC when I started following you. So how have you magically become a health expert? And I think that's why some people are getting annoyed because some of these marketing messages from brands seem a bit tone deaf. So I think you have to really understand, what are people coming to you for? Underneath your product, are they coming for newness? Are they coming for entertainment? Are they coming for knowledge? What's the deeper level purpose behind your business and your brand? And saying, how can I still deliver that in a way that is sensitive and that is respectful? But I personally don't want my fashion brand giving me health tips because I'm getting that everywhere. That has nothing to do with your business. And you're not an expert at that. I want you to focus on your expertise. So that's what I'd recommend, is like still making sure that you're sensitive and aware to your audience.
I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, now, as I said, we're going to take one question from the people who put them in the chat box. So the first one, I'll take Ziri, who says that she wants to run an online course to help ladies grow their hair. Do you think this is the best time to do that? What I would say to Ziri is that if something is your passion, the best time to do it is always now. Well, I mean, I guess not always now, but for now, it really, yeah, I'm like, I mean, maybe there are some times where it really isn't the right time. But I think with running something like an online class, like there is always time to do that. And so I think that this is definitely a good time to get started because you could presuppose that a lot of people are going to be online looking for things to do. What I would think about if you are trying to run this online course is just really think about effective marketing. I think that if you're starting new, one of the first things you should do if you're trying to teach a class, because the hard thing with starting from zero from teaching a class is that people want to understand, well, what's your expertise? Why should I listen to you? So I think that one of the marketing strategies that you might find particularly useful is actually getting people in your network who know you, who know that you do, that you grow your hair well, you know, showing pictures of yourself, actually getting them to send it to their immediate networks, because that could help you get slightly faster trust in your audience, and might then help you better sell the course in the early times. Afua, over to you.
That was good. Okay, so Sarah asked a question around, she said, I sell fabrics, but as a result of the coronavirus, my distributors are on shutdown, so I can't deliver products like usual. Please, do you have suggestions for me in a way to improvise? How do I ensure that I get more customers this period to do business with me, hopefully after the pandemic? I think that's great because many of our businesses rely on other people. It's the whole thing about a supply chain and connecting with others. One is you might have to create your own supply chain. I imagine that perhaps you were doing direct to like a wholesaler. And so you have to really think about, are your end customers, if your end customers are business to business and all business has been shut down, that may mean that you aren't able to actually really sell at this time. What you may need to do is say, how can you use this time to learn and to improve? Learn and go through your numbers. I think so many of us, we're so busy, things are so hectic, we never look at our data. So what actually worked? You sell fabric. What are the fabrics that actually were the most successful? Why do you think that's the case? How much money did you make from those fabrics? Talk to your customers. Do you actually have up-to-date information about your customers? Who they are, what they care about, what their business challenges are, when are their birthdays, so that you can send them a message. Fun fact, for 2 years in a row, SLA has not even sent me a birthday cake. Can you imagine? And
your birthday is on the 26th.
But they sent a birthday cake to somebody when our office was shut down because of coronavirus. So coronavirus didn't stop someone from getting their birthday.
Christmas shutdown did, because we were doing Dirty
December. Shut down my own birthday. Anyways, take the time to learn more about your customers and what they need. I think thirdly is to figure out how can your business run more efficiently. We have to keep it real. Some businesses are gonna be on pause during this time. If you're business to business and your primary clients are other businesses who've been shut down, you will suffer. You can try, particularly from a fabric business, to sell direct to consumer. But if your consumers are like, I don't need fabric because I'm not going out anywhere, that may not be a good business. I think the last one though is to think about who else may need your products. So maybe people who are buying fabrics for weddings may not need it, but are people making more pajamas or things to wear inside the house and those businesses are still running? Do they need fabric to make nurses' uniforms or doctors' uniforms? So think about other uses for your products or other people who might value it. Yeah. That's what I have to say.
I mean, I think that's interesting. And I know that there are some people who have also been like using fabric to make even face masks. So that is something that is, you know, somewhat connected, is actually a product that might be in need at the moment.
Great. Okay, so I want to say thank you. Thank you to every single person who joined us. Don't forget your special offers today because you joined this webinar. MMI, that's our Motherland Mobile Insider. If you want to have more access to private webinars like this, you want to have your questions answered by experts, you want to connect and build your community with other smart young professionals and entrepreneurs, Motherland Mobile Insider is the community for you. It's an 8-week program, and then of course you're able to continue to join and be a part of this exclusive community, and you get 10% off as well as a free list of 20 businesses you can start right now at home. You can access that by clicking the link in the offers at bit.ly/joinMMI. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to advertise and connect to She Leads Africa and our audience of smart professional women all across the globe. More than 700,000 women you want to get in their face. Email, Instagram, WhatsApp, website. You can do that. You clicking the link bit.ly/digitalsales2020. We have 20% off our one-off ads and also 50% off our 3-month subscription. Thank you so much for every single person who signed up. Thank you so much for all of the love. Thank you, Zima. Thank you, Eniola. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Essie. Thank you so much for every single person who's been a member of our community. We're so grateful to have you here, and we cannot wait to see you inside Motherland Mogul Insider. And
Definitely.
good luck, everybody. No things ahead of you out there, but stay strong, stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank you. And as a final note, just for anyone who has any feedback on the information that we shared on the webinar in general, things that we could be better doing as an organization to support you through this period, topics you want to learn about, please do email content@sheleadsafrica.org. The more we understand what we can be doing to be supportive, especially in terms of education and the types of topics you want to learn about during this period, the more you tell us, the more we can actually create. So please do email us at content, CONTENT, at sheleadsafrica.org with feedback, suggestions on what we could be doing, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and we will see you next time.